This is the Awkward GM Corbin in editor form here, just to let you know that I did remove the sound effects that occur whenever one of the things pops into place, because people had complained about it in the last video. Additionally, some of the templates in here aren't actually templates, they're something else entirely, but I felt they fit in the mortal templates category a lot better than anywhere else, so that's where they lie for this moment. Thank you so much, back to the video. Shout out to our patrons for supporting the channel. So let's start with the most known about mortal template, the Ghoul. Ghouls are vampires' mortal template. They are people who fed off of vampire blood and now have special powers. And I love them. They are very quintessential to Vampire the Masquerade and Requiem. And they get some cool abilities. And they're kind of like blood addicts, or drug addicts, but for blood. And they're very unique. They have a lot of support, so they go at the top of the list. Next up, we have the Blood Doll. Now, Blood Dolls, as far as I know, they don't really have any mechanics. I think there might be a merit to make their blood a little bit more potent, but to me, they're literally just mortals. They're not going to be doing anything too crazy on the table. Now, for Dhampir, they are something I don't know well enough. I've been told that they are half vampires who are born from a mortal and a vampire having a child, and they also don't get blood potency or disciplines. However, they get some special abilities that are very similar, but not as powerful. Now we have the Wolfblooded. The Wolfblooded have a crap ton of customization options. They are people who have seen a werewolf and turned closer into becoming a werewolf. I love them. Wolfblooded I love because they have a lot of different abilities they can have. They have a tell that hints to their wolf-like nature, and that tell can have a variety of different powers. Some of them can see spirits, some of them can even turn into werewolves. It's pretty cool. And by turning them into a werewolf, I mean they can turn into one of the werewolf forms. They're not going to become fully werewolf, though it is hinted that they could. Now, Sleepwalkers. Sleepwalkers are for mage. I do not have a good appreciation of mage. I have been playing a little bit with mage, but for Sleepwalkers themselves, what's special about them? Well, nothing. They are literally just mortals. They are mortals who are able to see and remember supernal magic. And here's the thing. Sleepwalkers are literally all these other templates. Seriously, a Wolfblooded is considered a Sleepwalker in Mage the Awakening. Same as a Ghoul, same as a Dhampir. Same, technically, maybe a Blood Doll isn't, but so literally they're just a mortal who can see magic. On the other hand, we have the Proximi, and they are actually something I really, really love. They are equivalent to Sleepwalkers, but they are able to actually cast spells, and they have some sort of little trick of the trade that they can use. I haven't used them a lot. I do think I should bring them in more, but they are very wonderful as far as being a step up from Sleepwalker. Servitors are the equivalent of a Proximi for the Seers, I believe. I think they're actually sort of genetically manipulated or groomed to become Seer agents. I put them in the light category. I haven't used them yet, but they are something that, after reading them, I really like them a lot. Alchemists, again, this is something I really love. They are basically people who have dealt with Pyros and messed around with Azoth or Pyros or any of the other like Promethean alchemic properties, and it's turned them into sort of a quirky person who doesn't really work well with other mortals. You're talking about people who have disquiet going through their body now. They can be allies for Prometheans, but for the most part they're antagonists because they want to get more Azoth and Pyros from Prometheans. The Fae-Touched, they're not my favorite. Fae-Touched are basically people who made promises to changelings before they were taken by the true Fae, so they technically have more priority over the Changeling than the True Fae do. The reason I don't really like them is because it really limits them to just one per Changeling for the most part. They do have some interesting stuff where they can go into Arcadia to rescue the Changeling, and they are essentially more badass than the True Fae themselves in Arcadia because they have this priority. So they can go up to a True Fae, punch them, defeat them, and all that stuff in order to get the person that made the promise with them. Because the weird's weird like that. Now that's cool, but there's only going to be a handful of them, and as far as special abilities go, like mechanically, I don't see too many things that they have. I honestly had to create my own lesser mortal template for Changeling to make it more interesting. Now we move from Changeling to Hunter the Vigil. Hunter the Vigil doesn't really have lesser templates, however they do have slashers, which 5 of the slasher templates are technically mortal templates. The Avenger is someone who basically goes around and pretends to be... Actually, I'll stop right there for a sec. The Brute is one that I kind of like. I really like the mask version of them, but as far as the mortal template goes, the mortal template is more resistant to being punched around, essentially. The Brutes themselves kind of are like vampires, in which if they get hurt a lot, they don't fall unconscious and they can keep going. So I kind of like them. Maybe I should put them in Don't Know well enough, but basically they're mortals who have 2 abilities to them, so it's not anything too crazy. Now the Charmer here is a slasher that is more likely to be social and pretend to be a normal person, but they have the little cracks that fade away when things don't go their way, and it causes them to become crazy and kill people, essentially, or at least display that they're going to kill people. They have a tell that is very iconic. So I would put them over in the love category, because it's always nice to have that twist of someone who's trying to pretend to be normal but ends up not being able to do it, and then you realize, oh no, I'm in danger. The Undesirable slasher is essentially the precursor to the mutant. They're not well liked. Honestly, they're not my favorite. I feel like it could be seen as a little bit ableist with them, but they're fine. They're not my favorite. Virtuoso is essentially a mastermind slasher who is kind of like your Hannibal Lecter type, though not to the extent that Hannibal Lecter is. There's one that's, I think, a step above them in the Supernatural one, which is much more like Hannibal Lecter, or at least it used to be back in the first edition version. I'd put Virtuoso in love. In fact, I'm going to put Charmer down here because I just love the Virtuoso so much. They're much more potent. They are someone who is outmaneuvering the players. And honestly, a Virtuoso is the type of villain who the players know they're the villain, but they can't kill them because the Virtuoso has a contingency plan for if the players do kill him or her. Ghost Eaters. Ghost Eaters are from Geist Sin Eater, and I'm not too sure about them. Honestly, they're the type of lesser template that is interesting, but I honestly, I'll say I don't know them well enough. They're one that I would use a lot if I was playing Sin Eater, I think, but the concept is essentially that there are people who eat ghosts, and in doing so get special powers and are more likely to live longer lives. Necromancer, I definitely don't know much about Necromancer. Now you'd think Necromancer, oh, this must be some sort of Death Arcana Moros mage from Mage the Awakening. What is that doing here? And no, Necromancer is actually a more broader category of mortal template that is essentially a person who controls ghosts. They don't have much more about them, so I'm just going to slide it up here because I'm not too sure about them. Now, we're going to move to Sorcerer. Sorcerer is from Mummy the Curse. I believe it might have even had its own separate book once upon a time. Sorcerers are kind of what I would consider to be the D&D equivalent of mages in Chronicles of Darkness. I am going to put them up in the like it category. They mostly do ritualistic magic, and they can even summon ephemeral beings like Umkata from Mummy the Curse and have them as familiars. They're pretty fun. Now, Bloodbathers, this is when we get into the Immortal types of characters. Now, Bloodbathers are people, normal people, who have extended their life by bathing in blood and using a ritual to do so. I really like them. They're very fun to use. There's not a lot of nuance you can do with them because they feel very one note, but you can play around with it a little bit. Body thieves are very much ones that I love to use. That is just because body thief isn't a specific it isn't the way they get their immortality. Like, bloodbathers get their immortality from bathing in blood, and that only happens in a certain way. Body thieves can jump bodies through various means. They can have technology that's more advanced, or they can use some sort of magical device, or they may even have a natural aptitude for psychic abilities. So body thieves run the gambit of character types, whereas bloodbathers really just in this narrow margin there. For body thieves, there are various different body thief organizations within the Chronicles of Darkness. If you can find the World of Darkness Immortal Blue Book, I highly suggest it. It has a lot more fun sub-factions of the body thieves that are interesting to run. Now we have the Eternals. Now the Eternals are your Dorian Gray type Immortals. They are the type of person who has artwork that looks like them and takes the damage of age, and any attack that is done upon the body goes to that object. So Dorian Gray obviously is what this is based on. I really love them. They're probably one of my favorite immortal types by far. You throw them at people and they'll just sort of walk around and be like, yeah, you're not going to be able to kill me. And then your players have to track down their item so that they can finally kill them. Now we got the Reborn. The Reborn are your reincarnated beings. I didn't really have a good picture for reincarnation, but I really like this the time I got reincarnated as a slime. Your Reborn are your type of characters like in, say, the Mummy movie, where the guy's girlfriend, the archaeologist woman in Mummy, is the reincarnation of the wife of one of the characters, or the girlfriend of one of the characters, maybe even the mummy, I forget, it's been a long time. But Reborn characters, I love them as well. They're one of my favorite types of characters because, especially for Mummy, you can have a sort of love interest or a touchstone with someone who you've met in the past and has died, but when you come to the future, you're now having to deal with the fallout of this person looks exactly like them or behaves exactly like them, and I know they're going to eventually regain their memories and probably try and kill me, or maybe they're going to have a fight with me because of something I did previously. Patchwork people, oh God, I let me just say it clear right now, I'm very biased. I love the immortal characters in Mummy the Cursed. All of them are very good and can be thrown in any chronicle. They have some mechanics attached to the Mummy Sikem, so you can actually impart Sikem onto an immortal, or maybe it's pillar points, and make them invested immortals and give them a little bit of extra abilities. But honestly, in Vampire the Masquerade, you can take these guys wholesale, put them in there, and they fit in very well. Patchwork people in particular are rich people who have paid to have their entire body replaced. They have, instead of a heart, they have a clockwork heart that gets not removed. It stays in their body, but the other parts get sort of replaced as needed. So, oh, their skin isn't doing too well. We're going to skin someone else and put that skin on top of you. Oh, your liver's not doing well. We'll replace that as well. So Patchwork people, I love them. I haven't used them. I want to use them. They're just so great. Purified, I don't know them well enough. They are somehow immortals linked to spirits. I can't say much more than that. They seem interesting. I have the book for them. It's one of the Mummy the Curse supplements that came out recently. Please check it out if you want. Now, we've got here the Visitors, which I'm not sure if they're in a book, but they were talked about as being these parasites that hook into people and possess them. These are the Ghoul from Stargate that I'm using to represent that. Honestly, I don't know them well enough either. I do like the concept of a parasite taking someone over and then switching to another body. It's definitely in the body thief territory as something that is very similar to Visitors. Visitors are very similar to body thieves, but it does it in a slightly different way. Now we get to heroes. Now, heroes in Beast the Primordial are very much people who are the primary antagonist of beasts. They can track beasts. They can give beasts weaknesses through a process known as anathema, or an ability called anathema. Essentially saying, if you're going up against a dragon and you believe a dragon is weak to water, suddenly the dragon beast is weak to water. Now, heroes aren't technically a lesser template in my mind, but on Codex of Darkness, they talk about it as a lesser template. They do have integrity as a stat, so I'm going to just roll with it. Their only real downside is they have less integrity than normal, supposedly. If you really want to run high integrity heroes, I think you can, but let's just put this in a like it category. I really like the idea of them being used with hunters, because even though they seem normal, they can create a posse of hunters to go take down a beast. And sometimes they might forget what a beast looks like. They might think that a vampire is a beast and try and kill that. Or they might not even know what beasts are and think that the vampires they're hunting have always been vampires, when in fact they've only been beasts. Now we get to one of the lesser templates that I'm most familiar with. Those are Stigmatics. Stigmatics are the type of mortal template that is essentially the most generic of them, but I love them for it. They are mortals who saw the God Machine and gained 1 or 2 supernatural powers, and then had a tell that basically says to demons, I was touched by the God Machine, and now I might betray you. Stigmatics are very generic as far as the rules go. They have just 3 dots of a supernatural merit to start with, and they can see the God Machine's infrastructure. Why do I like them? Well, they're just very generic. You can throw them in anywhere, and they can essentially be prophets, because they have a way of getting prophecies from the God Machine that can affect things. Now, is it not everyone's cup of tea? I don't think everyone will love Stigmatics, because they do have a tell, and that tell usually is something physical on their body that can be seen. It's a little bit of a glitch in how they look. Usually it's a weird color natural hair, or some form of mechanical augmentation that the God Machine imparted that's now naturally part of their body. I think for the Urge, I'm going to put them in the like it category, just because it gives a little bit more for possessed creatures to do. They have a condition or a possessed manifestation ability that effectively makes it so that the possessed creature can heal them and give them some bonuses to certain actions, but it's not like they're claimed where they're completely different. It's a plus to being immortal, but honestly, you're not immortal at that point. You're just sort of a spirit that is riding around in a person's body, and the person has no control over what they're doing. And now you can see the final board as it was meant to be. Honestly, I like where most of these have ended up. I could change my mind in a couple weeks or something, but honestly, especially the blood dolls, the Sleepwalkers, the Latents, and the human conspirators that are literally just mortals with a special name tacked onto it. Everything else, I think, is all subject to my opinion. Well, the don't well enough, know well enough ones are ones that I need to look into more, which could probably adjust this whole board if I ever get a chance to read or use them in games. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. I'll put something here that's interesting.